And hello, fellow raiders. Welcome to the raid video. I am not going to be pulling shards this week, so, we're going to talk about something else because Clarium has been working very hard to get us to constantly pull all the time, and I would like to actually take a break from that and talk about something I think is an important conversation piece. And I came across this as I was building out Dark Kale. Dark Kale is I have right here. And the issue is crit gloves are kind of poo-pooed or looked down upon in general by content creators because crit damage gloves exist. So if you look at crit rate gloves, you get 60%. If you look at your crit damage gloves, you're going to get 80%. So there's a 20% delta, which is roughly 3 hits into a stat, or the difference between the two. So why would you ever use crit rate gloves? Well, there might be a few situations for that, but first of all, it also really depends on where you are in the game. If you're early in the game, just getting crit rate gloves can help your damage quite a bit. Like, these are excellent gloves. They're in a terrible set, but speed and crit damage and crit rate, you're going to have a good time on an early game account with gloves like these. You're going to up your damage on your Kale or whoever your starter champion is through these gloves. So early game is a good place for crit gloves. Another place that might be really good for crit gloves is if you have a bunch of gear with crit damage rolls on it. A while ago, I built out my ninja. I wanted him to be very fast, but I still wanted some damage, and I went with these crit rate gloves. Triple speed, attack, crit damage. When I was doing the build, I found I had gear that just rolled a bunch of crit damage on it. So in some situations, your gear is just going to be, you got a bunch of crit damage substats, and you've rolled into them, and really that gear is not very good without a bunch of crit rate as well. So this is kind of how I built my ninja, to be fast, be accurate, and I've traded a bit of crit damage for it, but I've got the speed and I've got the accuracy in its place. So that's just a decision you can make, because that gives you flexibility. Another place you might use crit rate gloves is just for damage. Like, you just might want to throw in some damage on a champion. I'm doing this for Romantu currently. This isn't even necessarily the best idea, but Romantu is an attack-based champion. I have him going very fast. I'll see 300 speed. He's 300 speed. I have a 300 speed Romantu. And when he goes, he's going to hit a little hard, which can be a problem with the defensive mastery that pops off his debuff, but that's rarely been a problem. But he's going to attack, hit fast, or hit hard, a little hard, and then continue on his way. So that's just a choice. I could trade this out for HP or defense to give him survivability, lower his crit, avoid that issue of the mastery popping off the debuff, but hasn't really been a problem for me. So it's another place where you could just say, I want some extra damage, crit gloves, give me the damage. And the last area, and the place I wanted to talk about today, was building champions with what I call crit effects. Basically, they have a skill that says, thou shalt crit to get the effect. And I believe that happens here on Dark Kale. I was building Dark Kale and I thought, these builds apply to a number of champions. And I don't like to do individual champ reviews because that kind of, there's too many champions in this game, and odds of you having that specific champion are probably fairly low. So I like to group champions in a bucket. And today's bucket is going to be champions that do this. They have a crit, critical hit, have to do a thing. And so in Dark Gale's case, each critical hit will increase the duration of debuffs, right? This isn't necessarily a damaging ability, but you want the crit. So how did I build my Dark Gale? Well, I did opt for the crit damage amulet with the crit rate gloves. And I put him in Relentless just so he's moderately fast. He doesn't have to be super fast. None of these are really glyphed yet, but I can make him even faster. So he needs the crit rate for the effect. He needs the accuracy, which when I rank him up, I'll give him a banner. He'll be 300 plus accuracy. And then he's got to stay alive, which is why I go with the HP chest. He's going to have some survivability. I think I have an HP ring as well. I do. I have some damage sprinkled in. I'm not sure how well that'll do yet. I'm going to find out as I build him, or as I experiment with him in the coming weeks. But this is a general pattern I've had for other champions. Crit rate gloves, HP chest, speed boots, accuracy banner. What you want to do with these two slots is kind of up to you. I generally like crit damage for the neck, but you can make an argument that maybe this character is only a debuffer. Just has to stay alive. So you can do defense or HP here. Obviously, you do defense or HP here. So that's Kale, and he's got the one ability. What about other champions? Another champion you might have, who I built not too long ago, is Duck the Pierced. And Duck the Pierced also has the same quirk where you need to say he will apply his decreased defense on a critical hit. So what did we do for Duck the Pierce? Well, he's got the crit rate gloves as well. A defense chest because he's a defense-based champion. And I sprinkled in accuracy through the sets. This is very close to what Kale's going to look like when he's done. Here's the accuracy banner. The game would load that. There you go. Good damage neck and an HP ring. So about 40k. 40k HP. Practically defense capped. Crit capped. Respectable critical damage. Very respectable accuracy. So he's going to be able to contribute some damage, apply his debuffs, and survive. So he's a pretty well-rounded champion. But I'm giving up basically crit damage, or actually he's pretty fast. I'm not giving up a whole lot to use these crit rate gloves. That's another example. Another champion who everyone will get relatively early on is Archmage. Archmage, I tried to go the crit damage gloves route with because I thought, oh, he's going to do a lot of damage. He doesn't really do a lot of damage. I also tried to get him at the 70% crit rate mark because of his increased crit rate buff, but I built him this way and I haven't really changed him, but his time slip ability does require critical. So if he crits with the first attack, he will throw a second attack that does a stun on everybody. Excellent ability. He is worth the books. Put him in your faction wars, and he is awesome. Put him in your seer team, and he is awesome. But he's another champion where that ability requires the crit. So I currently have him at the 70% mark because I do the ability first, but you could easily make an argument to push him up to 100%. Now, my favorite legendary for this, and most people won't have him, is Doomlord. Doomlord Similar build, crit rate gloves, HP, speed boots. This might be HP actually. Let's see. Nope, he's crit damage as well. This probably doesn't even need to be crit damage, honestly. He just doesn't do a terribly large amount of damage. Accuracy banner, HP. I didn't max that. HP ring. I use Doomlord in a lot of situations. And this is his ability that requires the crit. Attacks an enemy, places 2 poisons on all enemies for 5 turns. But if a crit, it places 4 poisons. Great for poison explosions, great for just getting through Doom Tower waves slowly. Even good for Hydra. There are some Hydra heads, notably the Head of Decay, the Cleanser Head himself. Cleanser Head is susceptible to poisons. So I think 2 of the heads of the current Hydra rotation are susceptible to poisons. So Doomlord does some work there because 4 poisons on 1 target is great. 4 poisons on 2 targets even. So my last example of a champion that also has a crit effect is someone I would like to play with that I don't have. And honestly, she's probably not a good champion. It's Lady Quillen. If you have her, I would like to hear about your experiences with her. But she also falls in the same category of she's got a crit to fill turn meter. So, oh, no, excuse me. She's got a crit to get an extra hit. Excuse me. And if it kills somebody, it fills turn meter. This is a very interesting champion. Pretty high base speed, attack based champion. You would probably want to build her for crit or crit damage gloves anyway. But her effects rely on a critical attack. And this is one of the few champions in the game that does not require any accuracy at all. It looks interesting. So you would build her with either crit rate or crit damage gloves, and you would definitely try to crit cap her. And her effects kick in when, like this attack right here, I think is probably very interesting. But I never see her used. But she falls in the category of thou shalt crit, so she gets mentioned on the list. So those are some builds that you might want to consider using your crit rate gloves on. Because just in general, crit damage gloves with crit rate can be very difficult to find. I have a fair amount of them over the 3 years I've played this game, but this is it. These are all, I have 56 gloves that fit this criteria of being crit damage with a crit rate substat. In a lot of cases, I don't even get a hit on the substat. So, very good crit damage gloves can be difficult to get. And what's funny to me is that there are situations where I have come across gear in this game. I think there's a helmet. I think it was a helmet somewhere where I have a triple or a quad crit damage roll. I don't remember where it is. But if you get a bunch of very high crit damage roll pieces, here's one. I haven't been brave enough to roll this one to 16 yet, but you're going to get pieces like this. Triple crit damage. Yeah, you're going to get triple crit damage pieces every once in a while. And how do you use those? Do you just want to sell them? I would argue Probably not. I think those are weird pieces. Here we go. This is the helmet I was thinking of. This is a very powerful helmet. 3 crit damage hits and an attack hit. So some nuker is going to have to try to make use of that, and they're probably going to need crit rate from somewhere. So either you have to use the gloves or you have to find very interesting other pieces to make those work. So that has been my little spiel about crit rate gloves, crit rate champion, or crit effect champions. Who do you like to use for? Who do you like to use crit rate gloves on? Because it's kind of one of those outliers of people generally poo-poo crit rate gloves, but we need to use crit rate gloves in a bunch of places. So let me know, and I will see you guys next time.